Hey folks, QE here. So recently, with the third anniversary, Dev Sisters has announced a new level cap of 80, which has a few implications. And since EXP is a very important resource, I will be making a quote-unquote tier list to make a sort of guide pointer to guide you to know which cookies to prioritize to 80 first. So first things first, you need to get 5 cookies to 80 because that means your Paragon level will be 80. So all of the cookies in your Hall of Ancient Heroes will be level 80. That is the most important thing. It's like, ignore if I have Creme Brulee number 1 or Prune Juice number 1. If they're not really leveled up yet, you need to prioritize level 80 your already leveled up and still very important cookies first, to make sure you can get level 80 on a host of other cookies through the hall. And secondly, of course, only level up cookies that you're actually using. Some of these cookies are PvP cookies, which is optional since there are multiple teams you can run. And I will be sort of basing this off of people's predictions of how White Lily will affect the meta. So first of all, Creme Brulee and Prune Juice. They are your guild boss damage dealers, and especially Prune Juice, but Creme Brulee is also PvP viable as well as very strong in Cookie Alliance and basically everywhere. So even though Prune Juice needs level 80 more, Creme Brulee is just the overall better cookie, so he's a better investment. Creme Brulee is usable in every game mode and is the centerpiece of your DPS for Avatar of Destiny. And Prune Juice is the centerpiece of your DPS in Red Velvet Dragon. However, he is very squishy. So people typically run him with cookies that can apply frost, such as Snow Sugar, since he's very squishy, and if your account isn't developed enough, you don't have enough bonds, you don't have enough landmark levels or labs, then he'll die to the Breath and Meteor combo super easily. So people run Frost to delay the Breath and Meteor combo. But with level 80, that means more defensive stats that should lower his Ascension requirements, his landmark requirements, his lab requirements, bond requirements. And then level 80 going to the healer of the team, Snapdragon, as well. Which means that Prune is maybe able to survive Red Velvet Dragon without too much investment once level 80 drops, which is why he's a really important priority on top of dealing all the damage he deals. Then your number 2 priorities should be Cream Puff and Snapdragon. Cream Puff is the premier PvE healer and mostly shines in Cookie Alliance, where her bonkers heal multiplier is actually being put to use. So leveling Cream Puff increases her healing, which is super important because Cookie Alliance is a hellish game mode now. And Snapdragon, on top of helping your RVD team survive, is also very viable in Arena, most likely super viable now that it'll probably synergize well with White Lily, who needs at least some buffs to start dealing a lot of damage, supposedly. And even though Snap doesn't benefit from HP or defense, it still gains attack, which is very important as a healer, and is being used everywhere. Next up, super important cookies. We have Financier, Burnt Cheese, Crimson Coral, potentially Black Pearl and Frost Queen, as well as Golden Cheese. And these are important because Financier, one of the premier tanks with her Magic Candy. Burnt Cheese, not really a premier tank, and of course, if you're not using him, don't raise him. But if you are, he is quite important because he actually has no self-sustain as a tank. He just has high base stats, I guess. So he ends up sometimes dying before the 1 minute mark, so he'll need the extra HP and defense to remain competitive in the arena. Crimson Coral, Black Pearl, Frost Queen, Golden Keys. Depending on who gets replaced by White Lily in Coral to try DPS, they're going down to later on because they're still strong arena cookies, just not meta. Most likely, Golden Keys is staying, Black Pearl is staying, and the general consensus is that Frost Queen will actually get replaced by White Lily because of her ability to cleanse, removing a lot of her value. So most likely he is being put in later on. And then next up for later on we have Fettuccine, Parfait, the One Shot Comp, Rockstar, Icicle Yeti, Snow Sugar, Sea Fairy, and like I guess Mozzarella. So Fettuccine, despite being one of the most widely used tanks, the reason he's not as important as someone like Financier is that he doesn't die anyway. Like I have her on my alt level 50 and taking out level 75-ish cookies, and he's the last one to die. Well, second last one to die. But anyway, what I'm trying to get at is he doesn't need level 80 to survive, and because he's just so damn tanky. So he's a lower priority, but still very strong. Parfait, with single healer comps being a lot more popular, try DPS, try tank, he's lost a little bit of value. And then the entire one-shot comp basically is here. And Burnt Keys, a tier higher. It's mainly because they're a lot less popular comp and more niche, and might be out of the meta due to White Lily being able to cleanse and heal, and dealing all of the damage he will probably be able to deal. But if they're still meta, and if you're using them to climb instead of Coral try DPS or Boule try tank, then they'll be more important and Coral will be less important. But for now, I'll put them there. Rockstar, he's used in Alliance. Same thing with Mozzarella. Mozzarella is a bit less important since you use her for KB, but Rockstar's also important for his healing. Icicle Yeti, with White Lily being able to cleanse and most likely being one of the most dominant cookies in Arena next patch, Frost comps are looking not very well right now, which is also why Snow Sugar is a bit low. In the current patch, they are a sleeper cookie. Like, they're used for budget RVD, they're pretty good in Alliance, pretty good in PvP, pretty good in general PvE content. But now, you don't really need Frost for RVD. Well, you still do, but the barrier to entry to not needing Frost is a lot lower. So they've lost quite a bit of value there. Frost Queen is very likely to be kicked out of the meta, so they've lost another bit of value there since they're a bit unusable without Frost Queen. So they're not really a #1 priority for now. And then Sea Fairy. He's a legendary with the Crystal Jam, and he's pretty alright. I mean, like, should you raise her? Probably. Are you gonna use her? Maybe not. I guess for like one niche wave in Alliance sometime. And then these ones are... the priorities are unique. After you've gotten your main PvP team and then these 4 at the top, you can honestly work on leveling these cookies to 80 before working on the later on cookies. Since they're used in Guild Boss, but they don't really need levels that badly, and they're not the main sources of damage, like Rebel, Black Raisin, Margarine. After you've gotten everything else, then I'd recommend working on them to edge out a little bit of RVD damage. Except for Minchoco. He's just there for the 40% attack speed, you don't need to invest anything in him. Madeline, I guess that I edges out a little bit more damage, same with Twizzly, but you don't really need it. They're still gonna survive. The main unit that dies in RVD is Prune Juice anyway, so most likely if PJ is surviving, the rest of your team is surviving. And then AoD just doesn't kill any units, so AoD's subunits are a lower priority. But that's basically it for the list. And then I have a lot of just like don't invest in these cookies until you get buffs. Tartaten is arguable. You can argue that Taten is good in Alliance, so he's somewhat important, or like something you'll invest in after PvP. But the rest, not really. Hollyberry, like, I guess if you're using Hollyberry for Tri-Tank, but 1, 2, 3, that's also Tri-Tank. You don't really need Hollyberry. Queen Amon, if you're using her for Tri-Tank, but again, nah. Pitaya, you're not using them. Moondust, I mean, like, they're strong cookies, but you're not really using them. Maybe Stardust could counter White Lily in Coral Comms if Lily has a high base attack and he scales off of the buffs he has. If Stardust can prevent those buffs from applying and he has no debuff protection, then I can see Stardust being used. Moonlight, not really. But yeah. So that's about it for the list. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like. And if you didn't enjoy it, comment down below what you didn't like about it and if there's anything you disagree on me with.